It looks like we are live. So today on the T Podcast, it is a Wednesday, and I save Wednesdays for nonprofits because typically nonprofits reach out to me a little later than they should have, but it's all right. And so I'm like booked up well in advance, but I save Wednesdays for nonprofits. And today we have the Miles Perret Cancer Services nonprofit. Is that the way to say it? Miles Perret? Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we have Sherry Hernandez and Tim Rinaldi.
Yep.
All right. Look, I didn't butcher these for the first time in a while. They are going to be talking with us about the nonprofit Miles Perret, everything they have going on. It's also, they've made 25 years, so we're going to be talking about that. Also, our studio sponsor is Optimized Generator People. Power your home with confidence during any outage. Optimized Generator People specializes in reliable home standby Generac generator solutions. It's a mouthful, but whenever you want your home to have power during a storm, let me tell you, it's not a mouthful. They have great expert service. They have tons of awards. I've seen them. Really great stuff. Control your power, control your life. OptimizeGP.com. I didn't put up the graphic, but there it is on your screen. OptimizeGP.com. Anyway, we look forward to this episode. I hope you enjoy it and sit back and relax. All right, and so before we get the conversation started, our presenting sponsor is Chase Group Construction. They take the lead and become your one point of contact for the entire design build process. So if you're looking to build something new, a new business, they might build houses too, I don't know, but they specialize in commercial construction. They built a bunch of things in the city, several of the Fat Pats. They're big in the Fat Pats world. So Broussard, Bro Bridge, they built those. They're building some really cool stuff in Youngsville and throughout the parish and Scott. So Chase Group Construction, check them out at chasegroupconstruction.com. Great local company, and we can't say any more good about them. They're just really cool people, and we really appreciate their support. And with that, let's get the conversation started. So, guys, welcome to the T Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
Yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourselves. Whoever wants to go first. I know, sometimes people, yeah. So
Sure.
Ladies first.
Well, Tim has a better story than me too, but my name is Sherry Hernandez, and I'm the community liaison at Miles Perret Cancer Services. So I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but moved to Lafayette to attend UL and fell in love with the area and have been here ever since. So I love this area, and luckily I was able to get involved with Miles Perret about 8 years ago, and just am enjoying, being there and getting to represent and share our mission in Acadiana.
Yeah, so you said you're from Baton Rouge area?
Originally,
right,
I've been here for about little over 20 years. So This is home now, but born and raised there. But of course, Acadiana is my home now. So
Awesome. Well, good to have you. And then Tim, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Tim Rinaldi. I'm the executive director at Miles Perret. Been there for about 3 years now. Originally, I was born in San Antonio, but my dad was recruited to Lafayette when he was ready to become an oncologist, and he joined the practice here in town. And so I grew up with a really special appreciation for the work he was doing. With the last name Rinaldi in Acadiana, there's no others. So people would hear my last name and tell me, at a gas station in New Iberia, you're Dr. Rinaldi's son. He saved my mom's life, my aunt's life.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up thinking, I want to become a doctor. I want to save people's lives. And actually went to medical school after college. I was in Houston until my third year when my wife and I just got married, found out our first son was on the way. And that was the first point where I really questioned if that was the right career path for me. Ultimately discerned it wasn't. I got into entrepreneurial work and sales work. We moved to Boston, and I was doing software sales there from 2016 to 2018. But then when our third son was on the way, we wanted to really settle down and join a community that we were proud to be a part of. So we moved back to Lafayette. I'm from here, and she's from here as well. And I was doing mergers and acquisitions work for a business based in Denver. Really enjoyed it, but felt called with everything I'd been learning after getting my MBA to have a greater impact in the community. And after a number of meetings, I was introduced to Hank Perret and learned of the opportunity to join Miles Perret, and was just immediately thrilled and excited that when it was presented to me and I joined. And I've been incredibly thankful to be there ever since. I work with a number of people who worked with my dad for several decades, and just being a part of an organization that has such an awesome impact in the community. And also the fact that everything we do is because of the support of the community is just a really special place to be a part of.
Wow, man, that is a lot. And you said you're third. So what you guys, I don't know if you said all of your kids you went through the progression, but this guy's got 5 kids.
Yes, my wife and I have 5 boys from 10 years old to 6 months old. So there are many days I show up at the office feeling pretty worn out, especially Monday mornings. But I have many reasons to be thankful. And it's really unique that the Perret family had 5 boys as well. And it was their 4th son, Miles, who unfortunately passed away due to cancer. And so, my sons are right around the ages that theirs were. And it gives me even more appreciation for what they built. I think many people, including likely my wife and I, if we experience a similar tragedy, we'd probably want to leave the community and start over somewhere else and try and forget such an awful tragedy. They instead wanted to give back. And when they realized how many families experienced what they went through, they wanted to support those families however they could. And that's what led to the first games of Acadiana, and now 25 years of supporting local families. And we've served more than 27,000 families in that time.
It really is like a full circle moment. And I feel like it's that way for a lot of our employees. Like when we have dialogue and we get talking about, what brought you to Miles Perret or what drew you to Miles Perret, kind of similar to Tim's story. I feel like, a lot of our staff just has these full circle moments that brought them into the organization. So it's pretty neat to be a part of, 25 years of history in Acadiana.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk more about that. But so Tim, you came from San Antonio, you said,
Yes.
right? Okay. Yep. What year was that?
96 was when we moved to Lafayette. My dad originally was working pretty much full-time in Lafayette, but then he started covering New Iberia for their practice. So eventually we moved out to New Iberia and St. Martinville.
Okay. All right. So what do you think about the Lafayette area? I mean, obviously this is where you live now, so.
Yeah, so it's funny. My parents were recruited to here in South Carolina. In South Carolina, they were taken to a fancy steakhouse. Here, they were brought to a crawfish boil. And my parents were immediately sold. And ever since, just the community here, my wife and I mentioned we moved to Boston because we thought it was best for our careers. And while we both had really great jobs, when our sons were getting a little older, it occurred to me, wherever we chose to live for good, I'd have to tell my sons why we chose to live there. Mm-hmm. And if it was Boston, or at one point it looked like it would be Nashville or Austin, it was going to, the message was, I thought we'd make more money here. In Lafayette, the message is, this is where family is, this is where our community is. And I've never been as proud to be in Lafayette, in Acadiana, as I've been since joining Miles Perret, because now I see firsthand, like everything we do is funded by the community. We don't get government funding. So when I say we've served 27,000 families, that's because of the millions of dollars that have been raised from local individuals and families and businesses. So now I can't imagine living anywhere else. When I mentioned joining Miles Perret 3 years ago, I agreed to join, had about a month before I actually got started. And in that time, I assumed there must be organizations like Miles Perret everywhere around the country. If Lafayette has it, surely Houston, Chicago, Boston, Los Angeles, all those places must have it. And I was shocked by how hard it was to find other similar organizations. And now I'm not shocked because I realize the community has to back it and support it and ensure its success. And most communities aren't up for that challenge. But Lafayette and Acadiana is 100% up to that challenge. And what this community has done for local families suffering due to cancer is breathtaking.
Yeah, it's been really unbelievable to see the support that we've gotten, over the years from this area. So
what's interesting though is Louisiana. I learned this in Leadership Lafayette. Louisiana has some of the most nonprofits over any other state. So I'm not surprised that other cities did not have something like this, because I guess that's a testament to our community bond that we have with people here, is that we really value helping people. And so people just start nonprofits to fill a void.
Right.
Where there's a void, and typically there's voids everywhere, and so I'm also I'm on the board for a local nonprofit, and that helped us whenever my family and I were in a tough position. We lost a 22 week old baby due to stillbirth, and it was interesting because I was like, I didn't realize, like, I've never gone through something like that. And so in the hospital, someone came up to us while we were in the hospital room with our, stillborn baby. And they said, hey, we're a nonprofit that, helps families in this situation and the loss. And I was like, I never thought something like this would have existed. So hearing you say that, it really is something that I feel like is more unique in Louisiana, especially South Louisiana. We really value helping people, and most of the time people do that via a nonprofit because that's an easy way to raise money and to do something for a cause.
Right. Well, and I find we're really lucky in this area. I mean, as you mentioned, there's a lot of people that feel called to open nonprofits, but one of the things that I've noticed in this area is that, we do have a lot of really fantastic nonprofits, and I think what sets us apart is that most of them, including ours, was founded based on a personal experience. So, it's a calling, but then, most of the ones in this area, are based off of a family's personal experience with a certain situation. And I think that just drives that, that need for, wanting to help people even further. So, it's a good, problem to have, I guess. We have so many great organizations in this area, that have incredible missions, and so we're just lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah. So I don't want to dive too deep into what you guys do and all of that stuff yet, even though you basically
it's hard for me to hold back.
Yeah, we get really excited about sharing our mission for sure.
So Sherry, coming from Baton Rouge, a lot of people poke fun at Baton Rouge for being between Lafayette, New Orleans, and kind of, for lack of better words, void of any specific culture that defines that city. So coming from the Baton Rouge area, obviously you've lived here for 20 years, so clearly you're here to stay, it sounds like. What would you say about Baton Rouge? Like, is it a place that you like? I mean, obviously you were raised there.
Right. Well, for me, for so long, that was my home. Even when I moved here to attend college, my plan was to always move back. I was going to come here and then, get my career, move back for a little bit, and then figure out what I wanted to do. And then after coming here for a few years, obviously I made new friends and fell in love with the area. And then towards the end of school, decided, okay, I'm going to stick around for a little bit and just see what happens. And it's a totally different sense of community. Baton Rouge was all that I knew, so that was my home. But, after being in Acadiana and experiencing, what a real sense of community is, I can't imagine living anywhere else now. And that's all it took with just spending a few years here. And of course, growing into adulthood, all the different experiences that come, from starting college to getting married. But, now my core family is here, and, of course, my career and everything else. And I can't imagine living anywhere else. But I think it was that sense of community that you don't realize that you're missing until you're living somewhere that you get to experience that, and raising a family. I feel like Acadiana is such a family-based area,
for sure.
and just such a great place to set down roots and, want to expand that. So it didn't take long for me to, decide that I didn't want to go anywhere else. And even now, 20 years later, I can't imagine not being here and, continuing to set my roots here.
Yeah. It's an interesting place. I tell this story a good bit, but I was raised, an hour north. Pretty much, you're an hour away from Baton Rouge, in Baton Rouge area, and then I was an hour away in Turkey Creek, almost Alexandria area. And while it's still technically South Louisiana. Same thing with Baton Rouge. It's like this particular area in the Lafayette Parish, kind of any parish that touches Lafayette Parish, is so different. And I say that till I'm blue in the face, because it is bizarre how many people move away, trying to get away from Lafayette. I don't want to live in Louisiana for whatever reason, whether that's politics or a social reason or job related reasons. They move away. Some of them do move away for good, and that's fine and dandy. But a good chunk of people end up moving back. And there's a name for them, the boomerangs.
Right.
And I didn't realize that was a term that was used for people moving back to a city, because I didn't experience that. I grown up in a town that was 400 people, or not even a town, a village. Let's go and call it what it is. You really didn't see a whole lot of people coming and going. It was like the people that were there, they were there until they died. And the population fluctuates only because of that.
Right.
Or they have, new kids. But to see a town that has such a significance in this area with people moving away and then coming back, it's really neat. And so I enjoy hearing people's stories that are not originally from here. I always ask, are you originally from here? Like, where'd you come from? Because I want to know why are people here.
Yeah. And it always, I think, goes back to the same roots for us. It's just that sense of community. I mean, we say it all the time as an organization and, as individuals too, but it really, there's just something so special about this area. And it's hard to directly define that unless you are a part of it and experience it. But once you have seen both sides of it, you really begin to understand, what that sense of community really means in this area.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we get too deep in it, we're about to go to my next sponsor, and then we'll talk all things about Miles Perret and how it got started in the origin and the 25-year mark and all those good things. What are some of your favorite things about this area, besides obviously the community aspect of it? But when you brag about Lafayette or this area of Louisiana to people that are not from here, or you try to do a 30-second elevator pitch to people, what are some of the things that you say?
I'll go first.
Sure.
First one for me is always my Catholic faith and how incredible the atmosphere here is, the environment. We're parishioners at St. Pius, and there are random weekday masses where it can be difficult to find a parking spot in a large parking lot. And I've done a number of Acts retreats, and so it's just an incredible community. I love the new sports complexes in Broussard and Youngsville for my sons. Those are awesome, and I wish I had that when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think just how much people want to find ways to celebrate the most random occasions, even if it's LSU baseball moving forward in the tournament. It's just people are always looking to enjoy life for the most part, and it's a great atmosphere.
Yeah, that would be the same for me. I think, obviously it's the people. I mean, there's nowhere else that has this type of, community, going back to community, but everyone's just so friendly and so nice. And, as Tim said, there's an excuse to get together and celebrate something every day, and I think that sets us apart from any other, areas. But I think that would be my two main ones as well.
Yeah. I feel like in most areas, there's a festival for something.
Yeah.
But in Louisiana, there's a festival for everything.
And if there's not, we'll make one for sure.
Just last year, I live in Karen Crow. So Karen Crow, the city of Karen Crow was like, hey, we need a festival. I'm like, well, what kind of festival can it be? And it was a good one. The Cajun Seasoning Festival.
Nice.
I'm like, how come we don't have that already?
Right.
But I feel like over the past 10 years, I feel like the seasoning, the variety of seasonings that we have, like custom seasonings like K-Fred and Slap Your Mama, of course, that's a legacy brand. But like Payan, like all these other ones, there are so many. And people are like, oh, I want my own blend. So they're
right.
And then you go to Rouse's or Super One and you're like, this is a wall.
Yeah.
A wall of seasoning.
It's hard to choose.
Yeah. Oh no, you can't choose. You're just like just grab, or you see, you follow your favorite creator and they have their own, you're like, oh, I'll support them. But
right.
yeah, we celebrate everything here. That is so true. Well, I want to go ahead and get my next sponsor in real quick here. So it is the Music Academy of Acadiana. I can tell you about these guys from the back of my hand. Like, I know it so well. I don't even have to look at my script, but because they've been supporting us for so long. The Acadiana Music Academy of Acadiana is Acadiana's top choice for music lessons. So if you're looking to learn music, or if you have kids that want to learn music, check them out. They are located right there by Sam's off of Ambassador. You can learn anything there. So if you want to learn any stringed instrument, guitar, I suck at guitar. I probably could learn lessons there, but I don't feel like my hands are built for that. I like drums, and they teach the drums there. They teach wind instruments, any kind of wind instrument. I don't know about didgeridoos. They might have that. But yeah, or maybe you are a singer, or you want to try to be a singer. They help you improve your voice. Maybe you don't want to play an instrument at all. Maybe you're not, just frankly, maybe you're not attractive and you don't sound good. You want to make music sound better. You can learn the behind the scenes kind of stuff. They teach audio production. So all that good stuff's there. Check them out, Music Academy, Acadiana.com, and we appreciate their support. Alrighty. So, all right. So let's get into this 25-year mark. What does that mean for Miles Perret?
It's incredible, and kind of all ties into what we've kind of been talking about, this sense of community and, this area wanting to help out. But we were named after a little boy named Miles Perret, who was diagnosed with a glioblastoma, and unfortunately passed away a few weeks after his 8th birthday. And talking about family, I mean, that's really the sense of what we are as an organization. So Miles was one of 5 brothers. So when he was going through his cancer journey, the Perret family still had 4 other sons at home that were all relatively close in age, and had school activities and sports activities. And at the time of Miles's diagnosis, the community really rallied around the Perret family and helped them with anything and everything from transportation, for the boys, making sure Christmas was taken care of at Christmas time, really whatever, the needs were. The community really got together and helped their family. And so after Miles passed away, they realized that there was a real void in this area for an organization that offered those same types of services to other families. So that's kind of how we came to be in a nutshell. But so everything that we do, all of the services and programs that we provide, for the last 25 years have, all been based off of a family's personal experience. And I think that, sets us apart from maybe just the traditional nonprofit, because we really understand what it means to face a cancer diagnosis, and not only what a patient goes through, but what families go through as well. And so, we're just so blessed to have been able to continue our mission in the community for the last 25 years. And then, of course, we keep talking about these full circle moments, but it really does. We couldn't do half of what we do without the support of the community. I mean, as Tim mentioned, we're 100% community-based organization. So all of our funding comes directly from businesses or individuals and families. And that's how we continue to, provide help to local families that are facing a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, and just to add to that, when they first had the instinct, the motivation to start an organization, they knew that they needed the experts to be the ones guiding the decision making. Mm-hmm. And so from the beginning, they met with the healthcare providers, the doctors, the nurses, and others, and learned firsthand what was most needed. So it wasn't simply, we had this issue, we don't want other families to have it. It was go to the oncologist and say, what are the symptoms? What are the side effects? And so from the beginning, we've had incredibly strong relationships with the hospitals and the healthcare providers in the area that has guided us from day one. Something like nutritional supplements. Cancer patients oftentimes can't eat solid food, and if they don't get enough calories, they won't be able to continue their treatment. So many are told you should take nutritional supplements, but in many cases, they're not covered by insurance and they're expensive. And so one of the first things the Perret family was told was, y'all need to be able to provide nutritional supplements. And so now we spend more than $100,000 a year on those supplements to make sure that our clients who need it can have it. and everything that we do is at no cost to our clients. So we provide it to them as soon as, all they have to do is confirm a cancer diagnosis, and either they live or they're being treated in Acadiana. When I joined, I learned of some misconceptions in the community. Some people think we do research, or we raise money and then donate it to the larger nationwide nonprofits, or we provide the treatment ourselves, or maybe we only serve the youngest or the oldest who are struggling with cancer. But in reality, we provide the services and programs that families desperately need when they're battling cancer. And even after they're in remission, we have our wellness center where they can go for free exercise classes or one-on-one training for the rest of their life. We provide all of that regardless of which diagnosis or how old they are or what race or income level. There are no requirements besides that we confirm that they do or have had cancer.
And it's those interstitial services is what we call it. So, talking to Debbie and Hank Perret on a regular basis, when they founded this organization, they just knew that there was a need and that everyone's needs were going to look different. And so we wanted to be there to fill that need and whatever. And of course it's developed, and, we have some more parameters around some of the things, but really we want to be there to meet a patient where they are on their journey. And as Tim mentioned, that looks different for every patient, whether that's specific medical supplies or help with transportation assistance. Some of our patients are, traveling out of town, 3 to 5 times a week. And it's the things that you don't commonly think of, when our loved one is facing a cancer diagnosis, naturally everyone jumps straight to the cost of medical care, what it's going to cost to get chemotherapy or radiation. But until you've had that experience, you don't realize all of the other things that go along with that. How your oncologist will oftentimes hand you a list the day you start treatment, and it could have anything and everything on that list, from like a soft bristle toothbrush to, specialized hand cream or wound care or things like that. And, you're often provided with this list of things that you need to go out and get prior to starting treatment. And, obviously the experience of facing a diagnosis is overwhelming in general. Yeah. And so adding all of those things on top of it, just make it that much harder to process. So that's really, I think, the main focus for us is, kind of clearing up those misconceptions, and that our main goal is to really meet patients where they are, and then, whatever that looks like, we can kind of come in and fill in the gaps with services and programs.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Now thinking about it, just being told that you have cancer already is hard enough, but I didn't think about all of the other things that come along, like all the things you have to buy.
Yeah, that's where it really adds up. And then even other things that you wouldn't normally think of. So, we say a lot when someone's facing a cancer diagnosis, it doesn't just affect the patient, it affects the whole family. And oftentimes, that's probably the last thought in most people's minds is, it's not just one family member, it's all of them. So, we've also developed a lot of programs over the years to really help the whole family, whether it's, taking them out for a night of family fun, or providing school supplies for all of the children in the home, or providing Christmas presents. Again, we know that we want to be there to help the whole entire family on this journey, because it really does, affect everyone. And we all know someone that's been affected by cancer. We talk about that a lot, that, you could stand in a room with 1,000 people and, ask raise of hands of, who's been affected or knows someone by cancer. And 99.9% of the time, everyone's hands are going to go up, and
that's sad that it's that common.
It is. And, and Debbie Perret often says, our best day would be the day that we could close our doors, where people wouldn't need our services anymore. But, the unfortunate thing is that, year after year, we see the diagnosis continue to increase, and that number keeps going up. And, last year alone, we had over 4,600 families come through our doors and use our services, just, in our organization alone. So, we're super blessed that we're able to be here to provide those services. But, as those diagnoses continue to increase, so does the required needs for services as well.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned Miles was diagnosed with what type of cancer?
So it was a glioblastoma, which is an inoperable brain tumor. And at the time, obviously technology and things have changed a lot. But he was, being treated, and he was actually being treated out of town. So, they were traveling multiple times a week for his treatment.
Did they go to MD Anderson?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans. And, still had 4 other sons at home that, were just living their life, And so, but I think, again, that's part of what sets us apart is that, we were founded based on a family's personal experience. And even 25 years later, we're still, taking those messages and that experience into account with everything that we do.
So inoperable back then, that particular cancer, do you know if it's able to be operated on today?
There are some cancer diagnoses. Every time you're told you have cancer, it stops you in your tracks, and it's terrifying. Some nowadays, thankfully, are much more treatable and have a much better prognosis. That one in particular is still on the side of it's not something that
not the best diagnosis. Yeah.
And that's one thing I wanted to stress is, I mentioned before the nationwide nonprofits that are doing incredible work. Their research has led to many more people living with cancer. We call them survivors. And the term survivor with cancer, that doesn't mean you finished treatment and you've been given a clean bill of health. That means you were diagnosed with cancer. So from that moment forward, you are a survivor. And we like to celebrate that. In fact, we just had our 25th anniversary kickoff for Games of Acadiana, which we start with a survivor walk, which is just incredible to witness.
How many people are part of that?
We had a few thousand that attended this year. So nice. Traditionally, when Games of Acadiana was at the Cajun Dome, we averaged about 10,000 people come into the doors, including our survivors for a survivor walk, and then the community participants as well. And this year, we were super excited to be celebrating our 25th anniversary, and everyone was excited to get together again and, celebrate 25 years. So between survivors and participants, we had, a few thousand people that attended and came out to support us.
Okay. And as I was saying, there are many more people living with cancer nowadays, which is awesome. But it doesn't, when someone's told you're in remission, congratulations, life doesn't just go back to normal. We hear about the mother who is told, you're in remission, and then the first question is, what's for dinner? They can't just go back to suddenly everything as it was before. So the issues and the challenges that a person faces, it doesn't go away. And so for our organization, that means that especially the work we're doing in our wellness center only becomes even more important the more people who are surviving for longer. We've built a huge, awesome community of survivors in our wellness center for the classes and other functions. And one thing we were really excited to share with you today is our plans to move to a new building potentially by the end of this year. But we're going to have a much larger wellness center because we've realized that's where the future is going. Today, when we have an exercise class, we pretty much are at max capacity. In fact, I've had to move treadmills out of the way so that we can fit a couple more people. But in our new location, we'll have a teaching kitchen, a much larger exercise area, a private space just for exercise classes, because that's where the future is going. And we are incredibly excited to be a part of that. In the past, we have felt a huge need when someone's diagnosed with cancer and their nurse tells them, you should go to Miles Perret, they can help you. And we provide the wig or the treatment care kit or the gas cards. All of that's incredibly important, and that's not going away. But where we're going in the future is telling them if you exercise X number of minutes a week before your surgery, that will lead to a X percentage increased outcome. Because we're partnering with the people who are doing that incredible research and bringing that findings to our community. And we'll have the facility at our new location to provide that exercise and to guide them through it so that they're in a better position before their surgery, and then they know what to do after their surgery, where we're really getting strategic with our clients and guiding them throughout their cancer journey.
Well, I think that's one of the really the best hidden secrets about Miles Perret. People think of us and they immediately think of those, tangible services. But as Tim said, our wellness center is a huge component of, overall recovery and overall cancer journeys in general, and we're lucky enough that we do have a wellness manager on site as well. So she's able to really work, one-on-one with the patients that come through our doors, whether that's help with nutritional services, specialized workout programs. But as the need for, overall wellness increases after, a cancer diagnosis, we're really excited to see, where we're going in that direction, because it's such a huge component of what we do now. But, moving into that new location and us being able to have that expansion of services, I mean, the possibilities are endless as where we're going. And so we're just ecstatic about that.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So clearly my first question is, where is this new location going to be?
Absolutely. So if you're familiar with Schumacher Clinical Partners, they have a large office near the corner of College Saloon and Pinhook. It's tucked into that back corporate area. If you're coming from College Saloon, take a right on Feu-Filet, and then it's your first or second left. So our address will be Capitol Drive.
Okay.
But there's a corporate area back there. It's referred to as the old Halliburton buildings. Mm-hmm. We were actually able to acquire both of them. So Hank Perret was very strategic and brilliant, and he managed to talk the owners into donating one to us for the tax benefit, and we purchased the other one with funds that have been raised in the history of the organization. And so we are now actively, or we are not, the experts are rebuilding or renovating it and doing the construction work so that we will have a space very intentional for our clients and our staff and our board and our volunteers and everyone else day one, but also that gives us the flexibility for the coming decades that, when there's this new service or program that should be made available, we'll have the space to accommodate it. So we're very excited about moving to this new location. And one thing that was just announced at our event, and we put out the press release this week, is I mentioned that the Exciting Wellness Center, it's actually going to be named the Stoller Healthy Living Center.
Okay.
Because the Stoller Family Foundation donated $1 million towards the construction work being done.
Wow. Good grief.
Well, and that's one thing that was really important for us too. I mean, obviously, we require a lot of funding each year just to, uphold our services and our mission in the community. And, and knowing that we wanted to expand and build a new location, it was really important for our team and for the Perret family to not utilize patient funds to do that. And so, as Tim mentioned, we've been very strategic about that and blessed enough to raise all of the funding separately from our funding for services for this new building. So very intentional through amazing partners like the Stoller Family Foundation, but we're able to expand, but keep that funding separate directly for the new building and the new location. So it's been an incredible journey to see that unfold. And again, going back to that community support, it's basically 100% funded, through donations for renovation.
Yeah. And huge kudos to Stoller and what they're doing. I mean, even with the nonprofit that I'm on the board for, Maddie's Footprints, they help out a lot with them too.
Absolutely.
So to see $1 million, that is huge.
Huge.
We're going back to the conversation around Lafayette and Acadiana and how blessed we are to be here. The Stoller family is such an awesome example. We had this event in which Alex Stoller is going to announce that they've donated $1 million, and Mr. Matt and Miss Cece come to the event, and they weren't looking for recognition. They just kind of casually walked in. I happened to see them and explained, okay, well, y'all can stand over here for the huge announcement. They're such a great example of the incredible work being done, but not because they want the honor or the recognition or the fame or the glory. They see a need and they want to make sure it's met and filled as best as possible. In our work with the Stoller Family Foundation, they have the resources to do so much, but also the wisdom and the judgment to know what's really needed to make sure that their funds are used as best as possible. And so they've been very involved in the planning of our building and our new location to make sure that if they're going to contribute to it, they want to make sure that we're really going to accomplish as much as possible with it.
I love it. Yeah. I love that. That is insane. Yeah. To that point, I don't think there's too many times where I've seen Matt Stoller or CC in photos very much of trying to get that photo op opportunity to say, oh, well, look how much money we're shelling out to the community.
Yeah. They're very intentional, and which we definitely appreciate, but very hands-on, but very intentional, with that funding, going to make a difference, not so much for the highlight, but making a difference in the community that we all live in,
Yeah.
No. When I see them and thank them, I honestly think they appreciate the work we're doing more than how much we appreciate the work they're doing. Like they genuinely appreciate what we're doing.
Yeah. I've talked to Matt Steller one-on-one. I did an interview with them a couple of years back, and he really is I guess the word thoughtful is a good way to say it. Like he's intentional in what he's saying, and like you can tell he's thinking a lot about what he's about to say and how he delivers, because he cares about how he comes off and all that, and he the work in the community that he does is really good. And the way they started that company, it's fascinating, because you look at a company like Stellar, which is a worldwide company. Literally, we wouldn't have the FedEx distribution center here, the FedEx operations that we have here, without Matt Steller's company.
Right.
Like, he's good friends with the founder of FedEx. And in order to grow his company, he needed to be able to get his product out. I don't know if it was the same day. I think it might have been next day. And we didn't have a way to do that in Lafayette, because you need air travel. You need, flights out. And him and FedEx, they got together and did whatever they had to do. And look, we got FedEx and UPS flying out of Lafayette daily, getting packages, mainly because Matt Steller's flying out stuff so much. Like, it's all next day, or maybe it's same day now. I don't know.
They're a perfect example of, that perfect community partner. We mentioned earlier that all of our funding comes from the community. And, of course, we get every now and then large donations or large grants from organizations like the Stellar Family Foundation, but I feel like they're also setting a good precedence for not only like their employees, but it trickles all the way down. So, funding for Miles Perret doesn't just come from these large donations. And, we share that a lot with the public, that, a lot of people feel like they can't make a difference because they can't write a large check, and that couldn't be so much further from the truth, and so I feel like organizations like theirs have set a lot of different parameters, and getting their employees involved too. So they do employee giving, which is one of the ways that other businesses to help raise money for Miles Perret, or have what we call third party events, where maybe they have a jean day for employees, or make a special t-shirt or something like that. So we have a lot of organizations that support us in that way, but including their organization, they're always looking for new ways to help expand, and not only through their employees, but really bring the community in, where it's not just one large donation from the top.
Yeah Man, so the new space, it's going to be 2 buildings, you said?
So we will use 1 building. Okay. The other building is actually being rented by Acadian companies, and they're, speaking of awesome partners in the community, another really great partner of ours. But we'll have 1 building of our own. It has a total of roughly 31,000 square feet. We're expecting to use maybe 3/4 of that for ourselves, the entire first floor, and of half or a little more than half of the second floor. And with the rest of the second floor, we'll likely rent it. Ideally, we'll find people who can also support our clients or provide services to our clients. But we're making sure to really get our space as exactly what we need, and then we'll fill the rest as best we can.
Well, and going back to those wellness services too, I mean, we have a lot of unconventional services that fall under that wellness umbrella. So naturally, you think of wellness, as to mention, you think of treadmills, you think of, classes, and but it goes so much deeper than that. We do an art therapy class called Creative Expressions, where, once a month we do it's everything from die cut invitations to stained glass to making tea towels, but it's just a way to kind of, mentally de-stress and, through art therapy. So we do nutritional seminars where we'll bring in, whether it's a dietitian from the community or, another expert to help, teach our clients some different recipes, whether that's, kicking the sugar in baking around the holidays or different things like that. So we have a lot of things that fall under that wellness umbrella that are a little more unconventional than just the everyday, work out, eat right, live a happy life. And this new location and expansion of the wellness center is really going to help us take that even further, which we're really excited.
Yeah.
Excited
And
about.
you guys are currently located on College Saloon, right? The building where
So we're on the corner of College Saloon and Marshall right now. And I think that's another best part about our new location. We're not moving far. It's just right down College Saloon. So I know we kind of gave the coordinates, but it's basically across the street from St. Pius, but back in an industrial complex. So just right down.
Kind of like behind the Pinhook Walmart area?
It's before you get there. But it's,
If you're coming from College Saloon, I take the back way to get to Walmart.
Yeah.
And it's on the way, pretty much.
Yeah. And you said faux filet back there.
Yeah, there's like an industrial complex, if you will, back there with some, some larger businesses. So we've acquired a space right there. So just right down the road. I mean, 5 minutes down the road. So, our clients won't have to go far.
Yeah, so that Pinhook College Saloon corridor.
What I love about it, it's such a busy area, but once you get back to where the building is, it's much quieter.
Oh, yeah.
Right now we're on College Saloon, so it's not very quiet.
Yeah, we're prime, prime corner right there.
But it's also near bus stops. So for our clients who need to take buses, it's more convenient for them. So there's so much about this new space that I think is going to really set us up to have such an awesome impact in the community. But to bring it back to our current building, it's another example of how awesome the community is. We've never paid a cent of rent. We started with, I believe, 1 or 2 offices on the second floor from Lord's because it was their building.
Yep.
Used to be a bank and a clinic. We had the small office space. Over time, we've taken on more and more space, and now we have the entire building to ourselves. And Lord's has had plans for that area, but they've been incredibly patient, waiting for us to find where we need to be, as opposed to saying like, all right, you've got 3 months. So they've been an awesome partner and incredibly thankful for what Lord's has done for us. But I mentioned our relationships with the hospitals, Lafayette General as well. We've had board members from the beginning. They've been a presenting sponsor of ours for so long. It's just, one thing that the Perrets wanted from the beginning with Games of Acadiana was that the event would be supported by businesses and organizations as opposed to the individuals in the community. So it's always been free to the public, but it's been funded by competing hospitals or competing banks or others. And they've been able to bring the community together to support such a worthy cause. And it's just a great example of what it means to be here in Acadiana. Quick story about that. They had, I believe, the Children's Hospital in Cincinnati learned of Games of Acadiana, and they actually came down to witness it because they thought, they should do something similar. They were blown away. And the Perrets were so excited to hear from them after they saw everything. And they were so in awe, but immediately convicted that they could not do it themselves because it required so many volunteers to put it on. And they thought they would never be able to do that. So in a much larger city with, I'm sure, a much larger database of people to reach out to, they were convinced that there was no chance they could do it. And there are so many different things like that just remind me how blessed we are to be here.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we're, being a nonprofit organization, we're a small staff in general, but our events team is a pretty small team too. And so, in previous years, annually to pull off a Games of Acadiana, it took us over 1,200 volunteers annually to be able to facilitate that.
I volunteered a couple of years. So
I know we keep going back to community, but it really, every, topic that we talk about, it really does come full circle back to that community. We like to say at the office, we'll often say, it's all about neighbors helping neighbors. But that's exactly what it is, whether it's the competing businesses, that are, putting all of that to the side to help, help us move forward in our mission, or other competing organizations, or just, individuals, families. It definitely, continues to come full circle with all that we do. And kind of picking back a little bit more off of that too. So I know we mentioned that we're celebrating 25 years of Miles Perret this year, but we are ironically also celebrating our 25th anniversary of Games of Acadiana. So a lot of people may not realize that, Games of Acadiana was the catalyst for us to be able to open the doors to the organization. So actually we had the first games before we ever opened our doors.
Wow.
And it was way more successful than we would have ever imagined, and allowed us to open shortly thereafter. So it's become a signature fundraiser for us internally. But it's funny because I think a lot of the community knows more about games than they do about Miles Perret. Like sometimes, they may forget that that it even supports us, but it's become such a known event in the community, and it's really the main event for us that keeps us going.
Yeah, I remember whenever I volunteered the first time, being asked. I worked at golfballs.com, and they had a lot of our employees like, hey, do you want to volunteer at the Games of Acadiana, this and that? And I'll be honest, I was I moved here in 2010, so I started working at Golf Balls in 2012. It was probably 2012 to 2014, in that range, where I was first asked to volunteer, and I had no clue what this was. Mm-hmm. I heard Games of Acadiana, and I thought it was like this bigger organization, not like a nonprofit of some sort. Like, I just thought it was like this big collective thing that the city does, and I thought like Olympic Games, kind of like that aspect, and I thought it was really cool that there was something like this happening. And then I just thought it was one of those things where somebody started only to support Miles Perret, because Miles Perret sounded like the smaller, like the aspect of it. It was like the Games of Acadiana was such a big branded thing. I was like, okay, so they support Miles Perret. I was like, that's cool. And it made me look into Miles Perret just briefly and kind of to know what it was. But I thought it felt bigger than just Miles Perret having an event.
Right. Well, and it's really neat how that came to be too. So I know, we talk about all of the things that we do coming from a family's personal experience, but the games was actually, the brainchild of Miles's brothers. And so whenever the Perrets, were starting to come to the realization that they wanted to open an organization, naturally they knew it was going to take funding and probably a lot of funding to do that. And so they set the boys down and said, okay, what would y'all want to do? What would y'all want to do to raise money? And naturally, being, 4 boys, they wanted to have some kind of competition,
course.
And so that competition, if you will, is what we know of now as Games of Acadiana. So in the beginning, it was a little more sports-based, if you will. There was weightlifting competitions and swimming and more athletic type of games as well. And then, of course, that's evolved over the years to now it's more of a family-friendly games. And then, of course, in the last 5 years, it's developed even more. And so now we've taken that in-person aspect and, still doing that with the historical games, but also developed into a virtual scavenger hunt. So we said, okay, we're going to take games on the road, where people can play from anywhere. So we've kind of developed as the years have gone on. So it's kind of the best of both worlds now.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that it used to be in the Cajun Dome. Mm-hmm. It sounds like from the way you said that it's not.
Right. It's so in 2020, that was our 20th anniversary. Yep. And so obviously we had to kind of, reconfigure a little bit and come up with some new ideas that year. And so it was a perfect year for us to take games on the road. And the number 20 just happened to fall into our lap everywhere. It was the 20th anniversary. It was 2020. And so we said, okay, let's do a virtual scavenger hunt. Yep. And so it developed that year where we marketed it as 20 years of games, 20 days of fun. And it was a 20-day scavenger hunt that happened to run August 1st through 20th. So like that 20th anniversary mark was just kind of neat how it all played out into everything. But we kind of pivoted that year and changed our parameters and it became a virtual scavenger hunt that you could download a free app on your phone. It did contain some of the traditional missions and games that people, think of and are accustomed to at the Cajun Dome, and then some new fun scavenger hunt based missions as well. And so this is actually our 6th year of the scavenger hunt, and in celebration of our 25th anniversary, we actually did have an in-person Games of Acadiana this year to kind of kick off the scavenger hunt. So a little bit of a smaller scale from what a traditional games was, but still an incredible event, and with thousands of supporters and survivors. So it was incredible.
And with the virtual scavenger hunt, at first it was out of necessity, but it was so well received by the community and has grown so rapidly ever since that there was no question that we would keep doing it. My family is a great example of people who love it so much. My sons do it with my wife and my parents. I cannot compete because I'm not eligible to win. But there's, roughly 80 to 100 missions in this app. So for families, they don't necessarily have to commit 2 weeks and driving all around Acadiana. If it's raining one afternoon on the weekend and, parents are pulling their hair out, kids are bouncing off the walls, as I've experienced every now and then, there are plenty of missions that they can do, whether it's boys looking to compete, girls looking to compete, do something active, or maybe it's something that's super creative. There's a number of different missions. Some of it's trivia based, some of it's about Acadiana. There's many different ways that families get to compete against each other. And as soon as you complete the mission, you get more points. And then you look at the leaderboard and you see where you rank. And this year is already record breaking in terms of the number of submissions. Last year we had a total of roughly 16,000 submissions from all the teams. So that's each team completing one mission. This year, and it took us 11 days to get to 10,000 submissions. We just passed 10,000 on our 5th day this year.
Wow.
So we are well above pace for the number of missions and the number of teams involved. And we see so many teams coming back every year looking to compete and rise up the leaderboard. We're seeing more and more businesses doing it as a group. So as a fun way for employee engagement and team building. But it's such an awesome event for families, whether they want to get first place or they want to just, spend an afternoon together.
Yeah.
Right.
And the way it works is if every 10,000 points you get, that's another entry in our raffle. So some people choose to just buy a raffle ticket for $20. Others choose to earn it through the points in the app. And so for every 10,000 points, you get a raffle. The grand prize is $10,000.
Oh, wow.
But we also have 50 other prizes that have been donated by local businesses valued at $50 or more. Some of them are tech prizes, some are gift cards. And it's really exciting to see how much the teams want to win and how hard they work and how much fun they have. And then we get to the live drawing a week after the event itself ends, and we see who wins each prize and the $10,000. So for anyone listening to this today, they have until Saturday, June 14th, I think. That's the last day to complete the missions. And it's never too late to get started until Saturday after it ends.
Right.
But if they have a day, that's plenty of time to earn entries. And Games of Acadiana from the beginning was meant to be free to the community. And still to this day, teams don't have to pay anything to earn entries. There are certainly ways they can donate money to earn more entries, and we'd love for them to do so, but it's not required for them to earn entries in the raffle.
Well, that's one of my favorite parts about the whole thing. When games started, it started as a family event. Obviously it was a fundraiser to start an organization, but the whole aspect was, a chance for families to get together and have a great time along the way. And, 25 years later, we've been able to, maintain that aspect of the event. And even now, although it's developed and changed a little bit, and as Tim mentioned, you don't really know when you do a certain event for so many years, you don't know how changes are going to be received.
Right.
And it's been incredible to see, how much fun that not only the support that we're getting, but how much fun that everyone's having, along the way. And then still being able to keep that family aspect. So we're seeing grandparents, that are maybe keeping their grandkids for the summer, participating in these scavenger hunt missions with their grandkids. We're seeing people go on vacations with their family. I mean, everywhere. We had a submission from Mount Rushmore the other day.
Wow.
So, because, you really can participate from anywhere. And I think that's been the neatest part, although games was incredible, but, it was one day in Lafayette, with this version of it, you still have that aspect, but then you can also literally play from anywhere, your backyard, your living room, or, across the world if you wanted to. So it's really given us the opportunity to expand, that sense of community, while of course supporting, an incredible organization.
Yeah. So the support behind the games is still hospitals and stuff like that, correct?
That's right.
And
Really,
banks.
any business can support. So we've been lucky enough to raise all of the funding ahead of time. So we're able to keep this event free to the community. So now it's become just a way for us to thank the community and give back to them for supporting us so much. But through corporate partners and corporate sponsorships, we're able to raise the funds ahead of time. And then, of course, that's our primary source of funding throughout the year. All comes from Games of Acadiana. So.
All right. Wow, man. I didn't realize that it went that far. Like I just, it's been a while since I've been into the Games of Acadiana thing, and I like knowing now that it's been virtual, or I say virtual, since 2020. I was like, okay,
right. Well, and time goes by. So
Yeah,
even for us, like saying this is the sixth, Games of Acadiana scavenger hunt, it's like it feels like we just started last year, Well, and then the in-person event had become such a staple of the community. I think people, as we mentioned, they probably know more about Games of Acadiana than they do about Miles Perret. And, it was always the same weekend every year. So people, it became a tradition for a lot of families every year to come out and attend. And, we've seen that same type of thing happening with the scavenger hunt too. It's people are looking forward to it and wanting to get involved. So, I guess time flies when you're having fun. The saying rings true, but the years go by very fast. So, and just the fact that it's been 25 years as a whole for Games of Acadiana and Miles Perret, it seems like we just blinked and then we got here.
Yeah. Time is definitely moving faster, I feel. I feel like after 2020, I don't know, there's been a weird...
It's all a blur.
thing. Yes, it's been a blur.
Yeah.
I still cannot fathom that it's been 5 years since that whole debacle happened.
That's right.
And I'm like, really? Like, I don't feel 5 years older.
Right.
Like, what happened? But yeah, no, time does fly, and it's crazy that you guys have been doing that version of the games for so long already. And yeah, mind blowing. 25 years, man. And you said Miles Perret. I'm going back to something you mentioned earlier.
Sure.
Then we can end. He was 8 whenever he had passed away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was diagnosed at 7 and then passed away after he
And that was in
8.
2020.
No, this was.
Sorry,
in the
2000.
90s.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's okay.
So 2000, I get like 2005, 2025 mixed up.
And we
Adding
opened
up
a
to-
few years after he passed away.
Okay.
So
I'm pretty sure it was 1997.
yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, man, he would be.
He was a year older than me. So, like, I hear from people that I went to school with that they were his same class or a year
in his
after him at
class.
Ascension. So,
Yeah. Well, and then their brothers were so close in age too, and the Perret family's still here in Acadiana. Debbie and Hank are at our office multiple times a week. I mean, still super involved, super hands-on, and I think that's been important for us, to maintain that community spirit too. Is the family still as hands-on now as they were on day one.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to stress before we close this out is we've talked a lot about the very real tangible needs that families have when they're battling cancer. And whenever we have an email address of a client who comes in, I'll email them once a week to ask, what we're doing well, if there's anything we can do better. And overwhelmingly, their feedback is, thank you so much. But they don't necessarily stress that the gas card or the care kit or that item that they needed, it's that they had someone who really just want to sit down like this and listen to them. This room itself is very similar to what we call our family rooms. When someone's diagnosed with cancer and they come to our office, they wait in a living room as opposed to a waiting room. And then they're brought back to what we call the family room, which is a couch and comfortable chairs. And there's no agenda. They get to share how much they want to share. And then our care coordinators will kindly explain what we have that we can provide to them to help them in their moment of need. And so often what we hear from our clients is that it's the having a team behind them and supporting them is how they suddenly felt hope. They've been battling cancer, and in many cases they feel distraught. Many people want to keep it to themselves, and they don't feel like they can share that with loved ones. They don't want to put that burden on anyone, which is very dangerous for an individual battling cancer. But when they come to us, they finally have someone that they feel comfortable sharing with. And that's the major impact we've had for 25 years, is providing that sense of hope. I actually brought a testimonial that we received recently that I wanted to share.
Sure.
She wrote, "I have always been on my own, raising 3 children and providing for them and myself. During my life, I've tried to be there to help others and never ask for help for myself. It has been so hard for me to accept that now I need help. The Miles Perret organization and people are so understanding of how we feel. I felt so guilty accepting free items from them, but they made me feel more comfortable accepting the help. We not only suffer physically from this terrible disease, but mentally struggle with the realities of our changing situation. Miles Perret is very successful in accomplishing their mission." And the other story I like to share is we have what we call our wig room. And that and the wellness center are my favorite rooms in our building, because in many cases, when a woman goes into that room, she either has lost her hair or is about to, and is struggling with her identity. She looks in the mirror and she doesn't know who she's looking at. And our care coordinators will work with them to find, that wig or that head covering that really excites them. Sometimes they want to find the hair that matches exactly what they had. Sometimes it's their chance for a fresh start. And in one case, there was a woman whose daughter was about to get married, and she was distraught. She didn't know how she could celebrate her daughter's marriage without hair. But when she found that wig that was just right, she FaceTimed with her daughter, the same way her daughter had just FaceTimed when she found her wedding dress. And they were crying tears of joy. And that's such a great example of the work we do on a daily basis, that cancer doesn't stop for weddings, for school, for Christmas. There are so many needs that are not being met in most cases, but we meet them because we are there for our clients.
Wow. Not having been directly a part of someone's journey going through cancer. Like, I know people who have had cancer, and thankfully they survived it. But to know that there's a wig room, and thinking about the identity crisis part of it is wild, because that's something that I think gets overlooked. Is you need the financial side of it, you need the therapy side of it, but having the ability to look quote unquote normal is a part of therapy that I feel like I never
You don't think about those things.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where, where we come in. And, again, oftentimes, the first thing everyone thinks of when they think of cancer is immediately, the treatment and am I going to live? What does that look like, that aspect? But all of those other day-to-day things, you don't think about that until, unfortunately, you're in that situation with your family, and we have people that come to our office all the time, whether they're a patient or maybe just a group coming for a tour or just to get more information or continuing education hours or something, and once they see it in person, all of our, whether it's our family room or our wig room, where they can really put eyes on all that we do. It's, it never fails just how blown away people are, because you really don't have a sense of what that looks like until you're experiencing that. And I think that, that's one of the best parts about what we do is, we mentioned a few times today that, we're here to meet patients where they are on their journey, but that's so true. It looks different for every patient. We have some that come through our doors the same day of diagnosis, and then, we have some that it may be months down the road before they need services or before they're ready to, accept the help. So it looks different for every patient every day, but, our goal is just to meet them where they are and whatever that looks like, and whenever they're ready, to receive that.
Wow, man. So this has been, I've learned a lot more. Let me just tell you.
It's a lot of information. It's a lot. But
I mean, I knew that you guys were a cancer services organization, but at the level and the different things that you guys have that you offer was well beyond my idea of it. So I'm glad we have an organization like you guys in town. Let me just tell you.
Well, thank you. Well, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to come share the mission.
Yeah.
It's like we said, it's a lot of information, and sometimes it's hard to express that and let the community know exactly what we do. So thank you for having us and letting us share our mission with you today.
Absolutely. Anytime I can help get the community involved and help spread community help and information, I try to do that any chance I get. So, and it was nice to have you guys on to do that with. And
thank you.
Definitely something to remember if we ever have to go through any unfortunate thing like that. You guys are there. So hopefully you guys, and it doesn't seem like you guys are slowing down any some point in time, that there'll be another 25 years.
Oh yeah.
And so on and so forth. So yeah, this is a great organization, and I appreciate you guys coming on to talk about it.
Thank you.
My last question, and then we can head out, is I don't know if it was explicitly mentioned. Is there an age range that you guys help with? Because I felt like this is just me, maybe because I didn't go to your website. I didn't look through it to see early on. It sounded like the company, because the company name is from a child, like Maddie's Footprints. That was a child that passed away. So that's infant loss, and it's up to 1 year old. For you guys, is that a kids cancer services, or is it any range of age?
It's any range. And that's one of the common misconceptions, maybe because of some of our fundraising events or, patients that know other patients that use our services. But we are here to help any patient, any age, any circumstance. As long as there's a cancer diagnosis, unfortunately, they're eligible to use our services. So there's never any charge associated with any of the services or programs that we offer, and there's no discrimination on age. We just want to be able to help that need, whether that's a pediatric cancer patient or a geriatric cancer patient. Any type of cancer, as long as there's a need, we're able to help facilitate that.
And I think there are many people in the community who are referred to us, but ultimately choose not to come to our center because they don't want to take the resources from people who need it more, which I 100% respect. But I do want to say, with our wellness center and the exercise classes and our support groups, there are resources and programs in place that are meant for literally everyone, even if they can afford all the supplements they need. Having a group of people who have experienced what they are about to experience is so valuable that I really hope people who hear this, watch us, or listen to this will feel more motivated to maybe join our next support group. We have breast cancer support groups, which are the first Tuesday evenings of the month. Prostate cancer support groups are the second Tuesday of each month. And we're always looking to expand and provide more when there's a need.
I love it. I love the work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, man, so I'm going to go ahead and tell the people about the website, where to go for more information. That is, you guys can say it if you need to, but it's milesperret.org.
Yep.
And if you need that spelled out for you, I can help you with that. It's milesperret.org. And so, yeah, I think we covered everything, or at least most of the things we needed to cover.
Sure. And then all of our information's on our social media pages as well, too. So you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And, we have daily updates, whether it's our schedules at the office or any of community events that we're doing, too. So that's a good way to keep up, whether you're a patient or just a community member that wants to support.
And LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, again, I appreciate you guys taking time to come out and to talk with me. And I loved having you on.
Thanks
All
for
right,
having
thank you
us.
so much.
All right, guys, that is it. Well, we hope you liked the episode. Feel free to, of course, share it and do all that other fun stuff with it. And so it's a good conversation for people to listen in on. And if they need help, just know that, like they said, no discrimination, any age. So I really respect that. And it's really cool to have this type of community service in town. So with that, you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
All right.